Hello everybody and welcome back to Art with M. Today I'm doing part 1 of 2 different cheap art supply challenges. Watch the prologue video if you want some more details on that, but here's some swatches I did of all the products, and I'm pointing out like the paints and the crayons and the ballpoint pen swatches. I had to rearrange the crayons because the box was in no order at all, and it was super satisfying to rearrange in a sensical color order. But I didn't really take this challenge too seriously because with any new art supply, with any art supply you're not used to using, it's going to be difficult to make something great. And I mean, that's part of the challenge, but I didn't want to beat myself up over not making something gorgeous, I do like the result I ended up with, but it took me a long time to get to the idea of what I wanted to draw. So a lot of sketching is happening in this video. I started with a mermaid because it's still mermaid even though I'm not really participating. And I just was drawing a few different things. So I knew for this one that I was going to be using crayons and watercolors and ballpoint pen and of course the pad of paper. So I did a little test of if I could use the white crayon as a sort of masking fluid replacement to block out highlights where the watercolor wouldn't attach to the paper, and it seemed to work pretty well. And even if the paint did dry on top of it, it was easy to kind of scrape it up because the wax created a resist. And I just kept doing so many sketches. I had really no idea of what I wanted to draw at all. I tried to come up with ideas based on the supplies. At one point I write down a list of fruits associated with the 6 colors of the watercolors and created magical girls based on them. And as you see me writing on screen right now, it was a little too close to Tokyo Mew Mew for my comfort because fruit-based magical girls is kind of already a thing. So I moved on from that and decided, why not expand my roster of original characters? So for my senior project class, that's not really an accurate title, but whatever. For my independent study digital art project class this past semester, I created some character designs and I posted some videos of the process onto my channel, but these characters were based off of these fungi that attract insects for help propagating their spores around. So they smell bad and attract insects, and the insects touch these mushrooms and then get spores on them and fly away. So basically how insects pollinate flowers, this is how these mushrooms work, but they smell really bad. But then on the I thought of a warring faction of carnivorous plant people to contrast with these insect attracting fungi people. And so one of my original concepts was for a gorgon with Venus flytrap hair instead of snake hair. I haven't really explored her anymore, but I thought that maybe in her society there's also other kinds of carnivorous plant people, right? Different species or races or whatever this fantasy world would use to designate these different types. So I decided to make a pitcher plant character. And so these carnivorous plants often smell sort of sweet, have a nectar scent that attracts insects, which they then trap and digest. And so I wanted her, this Nepenthes pitcher plant girl, I wanted her to look sort of alluring. So she's beckoning a fly to come over, but she also has a kind of sneaky expression on her face. I broke the white crayon. This was only the first of a few that broke when I was trying to color. But here I am going in with the watercolors. After I finally settled on a design, I did 4 or 5 different versions of this character design before I actually went in to do a big sketch. I actually did 2 big sketches before finally settling on one. And so how I'm doing this is I didn't want to have the dark scribbly sketch lines in the final piece, so I have the sketch with the lines I went over and over and over to make really dark right below this page so that I can sort of use this very thin sketchbook paper as tracing paper as well, so I can kind of see the lines beneath it. So I'm using that to tell where the different parts with different colors need to be. And it worked out okay, I think. The watercoloring part was not too bad. The brush that came with the Disney Princess watercolors was actually awful, though. I'm sure you've encountered this kind of paintbrush with the thick black plastic bristles that just don't hold any water at all and shred the paper and just are not cut evenly, and so there's like one errant bristle going off in a different direction, and it was very hard to control. I feel like I would have enjoyed the paints a lot more if I had that, you know, a decent brush. But the paints themselves were pretty okay. I think they mixed pretty well. Like, obviously not professional grade at all. Cost me $1, but I liked the colors because they were so bright, and I really liked the green, which I ended up using a lot of, but here you go. So I'm going in with the crayons now to shade, and here's where I made a mistake. What I should have done is I should have done my line art with the ballpoint pen before doing the crayon, because wax does not really work very well as a substrate for other medium. Like how I used the white crayon to resist the watercolor very effectively, the crayon also resists ink pretty well as well. So I kind of had to fight with the crayon that was already down on the paper when I went back with the ballpoint pen to add black line art. It was actually kind of fun to do this, even though I think I'm a little too heavy-handed for these crayons. I don't know, the texture of this piece, I wish I could hand this drawing to each person watching this video so you could see up close and feel how awful the texture of this is. Like, at one point I picked it up and tried to dust off all the little flakes of wax that I kept producing whenever I tried to layer anything on top of any other crayon. Like, the crayon just did not interact well at all with itself or anything else. I've never been a big fan of wax crayons. They're just kind of chunky and hard to control and hard to layer, so I've seen people do amazing things with crayons, but I just do not take to them at all. Here I go, gouging the paper. As you can see, I ruined the page behind it because of how hard I had to gouge into the wax to actually make any marks for line art. And here's all the different iterations. And actually I realized after the fact, now that I've edited this video, I forgot that under the pad of paper was another version of the sketch. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you like the result, and look forward to the neon version of the Cheap Art Supply Challenge coming next Sunday. Bye.